All right, welcome everyone. The time is 5 o'clock. We'll go ahead and call this work session to order. Our first item of business is a monthly financial update from our CFO, Ms. Pickle.
Good evening. Good evening. So this is the financial update for November. So on the first page, you'll see that that's the revenues. I'm sure everybody is anxious to talk about the property tax revenue. So we're roughly $45,000 less than we were at this time last year. So we're at 5% this year versus 7% last year. So it's just a tick under of collection for the property tax revenue. In general, all of the revenues are performing as expected. So if we were to exclude the property tax revenue, we actually get 43% for the others. So it's just a tick actually. Overall, it's 23%. Last year we were at 24%. So it's just 1% off overall from where we were last year as far as the general fund revenues. If you'll look at the second page, that's the general fund expenditures. And I would like to call attention to the FY26 budget column. That's the blue column. So the third column of numbers from the left. I did amend those amounts in my budget spreadsheet. So because we had done the budget amendments, and that was ordinance 25-1290. So I had included those amendments in these budgeted numbers in the FY26 column. So we're at 39% in the expenditures, which is just a tick under the 41.67% of the benchmark, the calendar benchmark. All the other funds are operating as expected. There are no differences in the sanitation and the stormwater as far as collection goes, because those numbers wouldn't have changed. So everything is operating as expected, and we do look good for now. So we're not in like an avalanche, you know, we're still okay. But you know, as you know, or we'll talk about in a few minutes, we did ask the departments to do budget tightening, and so we haven't really realized that yet, although everybody's prepared to do that. But we're not in a free fall right now, so we are okay. Does anybody have any questions about these numbers?
The property tax revenues typically start kind of dipping after February,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yeah, February is the last month actually to collect, so.
Any other questions? Moving on to item 2, belt tightening strategy presentation by Director Perry.
And CFO Pickle.
And CFO.
Oh, okay, so in administration, finance, we can't really give any hard numbers because it's personnel. So we're going to do a hiring freeze beginning January 1. So any vacancies that we have open right now will be staffed as soon as we can find some do improvement and get someone in them. If anything opens up after January 1, we will hold that vacancy until July 1. We're going to delay the software upgrade that we're going to do for payroll and HR. A savings of $5,000 to $10,000. We weren't sure because we just didn't finish the research since we couldn't do it. And we're not going to do any mid-year adjustments like looking at police and fire, like Chattanooga did that big raise. We're not even going to be able to look at it this year. That'll have to be a budget conversation. In court, we're going to save some money there because we've reduced the deputy court clerk to a part-time position, and that'll be about $18,500 that we'll save on that. Community development, the TSW contract for updating the land use regulations. We haven't used any of that yet, so the 125
I think it's probably supposed to say 150,000. She's not gonna initiate anything on that till January 1, so it'll be about a $75,000 savings in her department. Bringing them back to.
So in Public Works, the planned savings of $64,900 includes no overtime except for emergencies, no travel or training for the remainder of FY '26, reduce the temporary labor force, move purchase of road salt to State Street Aid Fund, which they already did that, switch planned facility repairs to deferred maintenance, and reduce special event spending unless sponsorship will cover costs.
And by the no travel or training, we're not going to be putting anybody in jeopardy of not being able to keep their certifications. They'll still have the state has to be here to complete those.
So in the police department, we'll delay implementing new $10,000 supplemental pay for the SWAT, delay equipment and replacement upgrades, 30 to 40,000. Non-essential equipment such as rifle objects, e-citation devices, and office furniture. Potential savings of around 100,000. Personnel costs are typically under executed every year. And that's if you go back and look at the budgets from the previous years. They're under executing usually because of vacancies or the part-time doesn't end up being costing as much. In the fire department, no purchase of the surplus turnout gear this fiscal year, and that's a savings of $20,000. Delayed fire hose replacement until next fiscal year, saving of $27,200. Reduced manpower from 5 to 4.5 on a shift, and that's a savings of about $45,000.
And by 4.5, we mean use fewer part-time people.
For capital projects, the Ashmore Slide project, so there's no hard numbers here, but the NPO portion is $912,000. Worsen Springs safety improvements, savings of approximately $200,000. Delay the RFP for the Jersey barrier replacement. Defer construction on the municipal basketball court, matching portion of the grant, which is $250,000. So that's just deferring those until FY '27 as far as those projects.
So with departmental reductions, there's a possible savings of approximately $450,000. The deferment of the capital projects has the possibility of an additional $450,000. And we do anticipate an increased use of fund balance at the end of the fiscal year. These are all possible scenarios that we could explore if it gets down to it. We're not planning to reduce services. We're not planning to lay people off. These are just options that we can look at to try to reduce the impact of that shortfall. Have any questions?
Is there any of the items are like complete cuts?
No, nothing is a complete cut. Most of it is just deferment.
Or a reduction.
Other than like the court clerk assistant going from full-time to part-time, I mean, that's recurring savings.
Yeah, that's recurring savings, but that was something that was in the policy anyways.
Sure.
Everything is deferment. We're not going to go without. We're just looking at get the jobs done and get all the services out to people who need them. These are just the options we're looking at of where we can pinch this a little bit.
Thank you for the work of doing the hard job in hard circumstances. Any idea of how much of fund balance could be used? I know 450 and 450 is 900, which is more than, and these are all possibilities.
If we don't do the belt tightening, given that we were already planning to spend about $206,000, we did the budget amendments for $144,000, and then plus the $762,000, it's a potential of about $1.1 billion use of fund balance this year if we don't do belt tightening and save money there. So it's quite a big. So, yeah.
So even with savings, we would anticipate, even if we were able to defer all of these things, we would anticipate still potentially having to dip into the general fund a little more than we had budgeted for.
Yes.
Under, inaccurate information, but
Well, and
Yes.
there's always a possibility of unexpected things coming up that we just don't know about yet.
right, emergencies happen every year.
Right, and that's what, was included in the 144,000, the budget amendment, so we already did that, we just passed for the first quarter.
Right.
So, and that's, we anticipated that, obviously,
Right.
before we knew what was gonna happen.
Some of that is going to be reimbursed from insurance.
Yes.
Yes.
Some, but we don't really know how much, and
Right. Okay.
Unfortunately, it's insurance, so
Right.
it's hard to know.
Does anyone have any other questions or comments at this
And
time?
I do have one more.
Go ahead, I'm
piece-
so sorry.
One more piece to this, if you guys are finished with your questions for us.
I have a question. Well, I don't know if it's a question so much as a statement. I do appreciate what all of our department heads are doing, really difficult to find ways, nothing that we do in Red Bank is really non-essential, so making cuts like this is very challenging. The one thing that did jump out to me so far in the presentation though is delaying the Jersey barrier. I know we have a lot of business owners and residents who are concerned about the safety of that intersection, and I understand that we are trying to reduce our use of fund balance this year, but that's something that personally I'm not super comfortable delaying that particular item. So I just wanted to put that out there while we're having this discussion.
Yeah, I'll second that sentiment as well. And there are new businesses opening there too. So,
Yeah,
you pay for them to have a car through their front door and actually open.
right after they renovate.
I would just like to express the sentiment that I hate the fact that we're having to have this conversation to begin with. Through no fault of our own. I don't want us to own that in any way. I think we can take responsibility for future due diligence, but in this instance, it's a pretty frustrating situation. So thank you guys for the hard work.
Whenever this happened, and it came to light that the big shortfall that we were gonna have, and it really took a lot of wind out of our sails. But the department directors, they all grabbed their oars, whenever we started propelling forward, and then they started rowing. So really, it's up to them, to make these cuts, and they're the ones that decided that, these things that we could maybe do without this year or defer those things. So, of course, we welcome your input, on what maybe we shouldn't do. Maybe we should prioritize cutting back on other things and not necessarily on this. So that's very helpful.
Excuse me, can you go back to the slide that had the Jersey here?
That had what on it?
The Jersey here is maybe public,
There you go.
I just want to see it again.
So that's delaying the RFP.
Which would delay the actual installation.
Right, I see. When was it intended to go out?
We're gonna, first of the year, and try to have it, some construction mid-year, spring. But it was all gonna be fund balance. We didn't budget for it in the budget, so it was all gonna be fund balance. And just, taking a swag at the actual cost, around 200,000 for all the improvements, what I figured.
Could we at the very least proceed with the RFP, and although I'd rather have it constructed as soon as possible, rather than delay the RFP, delay construction to the fiscal year?
No, that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're not going to stop, but, we're going to delay the RFP. We're not going to be in a rush to get it out the 1st of January. We're going to, work on it, make sure it's right, get it out, early spring, so it's ready to go whenever the new fiscal year rolls around. We've got money to spend towards.
And that'll help us budget for it too.
Exactly.
Thank you. Is there something else?
Yes.
Okay.
Social media, this is to brag on Summer just a little bit. This is what she has done for us this year.
The Insight offers an overview of how our community engages with the city of Red Bank online. From July through December 2025, our social media platforms saw significant growth driven by resident interest, local business spotlights, and city event updates. This report shares what resonated most with our audience and how we continue to build meaningful connections across Red Bank. 2.1 million views. That's amazing. Viewership grew by 54%, demonstrating that our content reached substantially more people than in the prior reporting window. This reflects both higher engagement and increased community awareness of city updates. Nearly 70% of our total viewers were non-followers. This indicates that our content is being widely shared and discovered, extending the city's communication reach far beyond residents who already follow the page. 23,287 is the number of reactions, saves, comments, shares, and replies on content. Content includes formats such as posts, stories, and more. The City of Red Bank Facebook page was visited 37,300 times from July to December 2025. Not bad for a city of almost 12,000 residents. The City of Red Bank Facebook page grew by 1,100 new followers from July to December 2025. I guess you could say we're kind of a big deal. Viewership grew on Instagram by 511.3%, marking significant growth in audience attention. A 438.6% increase in interactions from July through December highlights Instagram as one of our fastest growing engagement platforms. This demonstrates the effectiveness of visual storytelling, business spotlights, and event coverage. Our follower count rose by 503 during this period, showing that more residents and community members are choosing to stay connected with Red Bank's city updates. In summary, the results from July to December demonstrate a significant increase in our social media reach and engagement, validating the effectiveness of our social media strategy.
Great. Lots of very big numbers, very exciting. Thank you for sharing that. Good job, Ms. Sheldon. Moving on to item 3, Administration and Finance Departmental Update, Director Perry.
Okay. So administration of finance is made up of human resources, benefits management, and risk management. In this fiscal year, well, in January, we implemented the consent agenda. And we have, I think we've refined it since then. We identified we potentially identified an updated payroll and HR software and began procurement. So we're gonna push that to the next fiscal year. We began discussions for initial and annual municipal supervisor training in past staff. We have initiated annual ethics training via the city manager and city attorney. It's expected to begin in January of 2026. I've processed 162 employment applications. This is just in the last 6 months for 6 different jobs, 8 recruitments. We had the employee benefits fair on November 7th, and then processed open enrollment forms and submitted to the broker for submission to the carriers by November 24th. That's just 2 weeks. I've never gotten it done that fast. I'm rather proud. You should be good. I'm gonna help it start. Yeah.
So finance, which is a part of, Tracy's department as well as that. We successfully orchestrated rapid concurrence from the state of Tennessee Board of Equalization for the corrected certified tax rate of $1.775 for $100 of appraised value. Once we figured out the process, of course, which Tracy facilitated. Once the correct CTR was established, the Red Bank Commission adopted a tax rate of $1.1306. And this is the true tax rate that would have captured the revenue that we projected in the approved FY26 budget. She supported myself, CFO Pickle, to complete her CFO certification. I passed all the exams and I actually did just get my formal concurrence from the comptroller's office, so I am certified now. The assistant CFO payroll clerk, Sledge, will begin her CFO classes in January, so.
January 22nd to be exact.
Yeah, so we're very excited about that. Completed the first quarter FY26 budget amendments. We did six monthly financial updates, with the sixth being tonight. Moved unemployment tax filings to the Tennessee Department of Labor and Workforce to an online portal. Facilitated the FY25 audit, which the report should be coming out. We expect to get at least a draft soon. And then that'll be presented on the 20th, January 20th.
I think it's January 20th, whatever our meeting is in January.
Implemented the fringe benefit tax on life insurance over $50,000. So transactions from July through October 2025. Tracy's been keeping up with this each month, I guess, in the newsletter.
Commission reports.
Okay.
So all those numbers that you see in my monthly report, this is the totals for 6 months. They're kind of big.
We processed 509 receipts for $298,000. Entered 1,428 invoices for $2.2 million. Okay. Did 1,047 payrolls, 32 deposits, processed 30 business licenses, processed 64 bank reconciliations, made 191 journal entries, and processed 2 frank claims. And those were the TDOT frank claims. You know, our famously slow, but we got to push those through.
And then the previous video on the social media was just summer's portion. That was exciting. Y'all see it?
It was very exciting.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Just a comment, I think we now have 4 CMFOs on staff, and we're going to have 5 after Ms. Ledge completes. It seems wonderful, qualified, very qualified. Thank you all for putting in the time that it takes to earn that certification. Any other questions or comments? All right, moving on to item 4, court departmental update with Court Clerk Donahue. Thank you for being here.
Yes, ma'am.
Staying a little later.
It's okay.
You didn't have to walk too far.
Good evening, everyone. I'm just gonna give an overview of the updates on our goals in the budget. Okay, so as you can see, our staff is a little shaken up here. We have an interim judge. He sat on the bench last night for the second time. He's doing an excellent job. We are down a deputy court clerk, but we have interviews starting next week. We had 41 applications for that job. And of course we have Christian, and Judge Houston. There's just a picture of Judge Hall's taking his oath. Our digitization goal, we had a training last week with our DocuWare on how it's gonna work. It's kind of a diagram there of how it, where we're at. We've accepted it. They prepped our documents and they've started scanning them. They're 55% done with the scanning part. So we have about 40,000 records in our DocuWare system right now. And then the last 3 steps are kind of all in together. They upload and tag them and index them for us. We plan to maybe go visit our records after Christmas to see the process or where they're at on that. So, and then another goal was networking. I do this through my training process, the conference. I've met great people. It helped me get the new ideas, exchange best practices for the court. I'm constantly getting advice and support from other court clerks, and helped me also gain a different perspective on how things may be done in another court. The goals for the funds and costs, we did implement our new fee schedule. We do have payment plans available to anybody that can't make their payments on their court day. And then we now collect a fee that is distributed for the Family Justice Center on top of that. And we've started seeing some of that come in. So, as you can see, our budget is pretty on point there, except for the salary on the part-time, just because of our situation with the judge. And we had to have a part-time person step in when our deputy court clerk left until we can get somebody hired. Okay. And that's about it on the budget update and goals. Do you have any questions about anything?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mayor, would you mind if I add a comment?
Please.
I just want to commend Alicia. She has, it's been 5 different judges, now 6. And Commissioner Wilkinson, you're actually sitting in Alicia's chair. I tell everybody that she is the choreographer of the court process. The judge is the principal dancer. And there's lots of supporting characters, but Alicia has been continuity to a lot of churn and a lot of turmoil in our court process, and we're just all grateful for steadiness. Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 5, update on change to wage laws, Detective Pope and our Tennessee ABC rep. Could you join me shortly?
Good evening, members of the commission. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Detective Sergeant Steve Pope. I am here briefly to give you guys a short summary of what changes have been, and then I'm going to introduce Aaron Rummage from the ABC, and he's going to come up here and make me look real good while I stand aside. So basically, right now, the cannabinoid hemp-driven sales is being controlled by the Department of Agriculture, and that ends January 30th of next year. And then it's taken over by the ABC. And the good thing about the ABC, I'm not knocking the Department of Agriculture, is we can work together. We can enforce the law locally as well as statewide. And I've spoken with Aaron, and we're going to, create a really good relationship. And the important thing is to make sure that everybody is licensed. In a few minutes, we're going to bring him up here, and we're going to hand out some forms. And that's going to show everybody who's licensed to sell these items, for vaping and things. But things are going to change. I think you guys should have these. I believe you have these. Okay. If you look at one side, I want you to look at the side that says Hemp-Driven Cannabinoids Retail Sale Guide. That's the title, okay? One of the big things is down there where it says selling HDCs, which are hemp-driven cannabinoids, is to a minor or assisting a minor is a Class A misdemeanor. Now, the Department of Agriculture is saying that's a minimum of 48 hours and a fine of $500 to $2,500. That is, that's amazing. I had no idea that you would have to serve 2 full days for selling, because that doesn't even happen with the sale of alcohol. So yeah, I really like that. Unfortunately, it has changed with the ABC, but they are going to be a lot harder because they are saying there are no vending machines, no direct shipping, and nothing like that at all. But it is still going to be a Class A misdemeanor, so it's still a crime. And we'll be able to enforce that either through the city ordinances or we'll be able to do that through the state, okay? I think I've babbled enough, so now I'm gonna bring Mr. Aaron Brothers from the ABC up. And he has handouts and I will be his lackey and that I will hand stuff out as he needs to, and he will be able to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Yes. Oh, thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. It's an honor to be here. Appreciate the invitation. We always like to work with our cities and counties, so it's an honor to be here. We were part of the conversation when this bill was passing last year, and this has been a very fluid and dynamic process over the last really 5 years. And the legislature has worked hard to try to kind of wrangle it in. It was an industry that was described as kind of the Wild West, and we're working hard to get it worked out. We thought, initially that we would take over in January. But as the legislation was written, it actually has a transition period where we will begin to issue license in January for people who don't have a license now. But the Department of Agriculture will continue to regulate those who are licensed under them currently, which I have some handouts for you. So it looks like you have currently 8 licensed establishments in your area in the city of Red Bank, according to the Department of Agriculture. They send us weekly updates on who has been approved. They still have about 500 that have not been approved, and we will be taking that over. What Detective Hope was saying about the 48-hour minimum, that was actually passed last year, and it was placed as a provision in Title 43. And now, starting in this next year, everybody will be under Title 57. So I think next year they'll probably make that 48-hour minimum also apply to our licensees too. It was just kind of an oversight. That bill was passing at the same time as the hemp regulation was passing. They just didn't really align those two, so that'll probably get fixed. We will start issuing, like I said, in January. All the ag license will expire June 30th. And so definitely by like that July 1st of 2026, everybody will be under the new system. The new system really made several big changes. One of them is it changed the definition of total THC. The older law had a more lenient total THC. It allowed for the THCA. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it essentially allowed for the THCA not to be included in the total THC. So it had higher levels of intoxicating substance in it. The new law has eliminated that. And so the total THC definition is significantly lower in the new law. They've also changed the dosage amounts. Did they get this copy? Or did they get it? Yeah. Let me hand this to you. They changed the dosage amounts to make it more stringent. Essentially you can, the packaging now will have less milligrams in it. As an effort to, okay. So another major change was they went to what we, in the alcohol world, call it a 3-tier system. The licensing in alcohol, if you're a manufacturer, you can't be a wholesaler. If you're a wholesaler, you can't be a retailer, and you kind of have to stick to your lane. Well, they kind of did that with this program. The old law only had suppliers and retailers, and this one has suppliers, wholesalers, and retailers. Now, there's no prohibition against, you can be a wholesaler and a retailer, but at least now we can, go to the wholesaler and say, okay, if a retailer's acting up and we have to take that license, we could say wholesaler, you can't sell to that retailer. So it has, kind of another little stopgap in there. Additionally, the tax has changed to a wholesale, it's all at the wholesale level. So the Department of Revenue will have fewer people to collect from, so that should be a good way to get that in the state general fund. 80% of that tax goes to the general fund, 10% goes to the ABC, and 10% goes to the Department of Revenue. Trying to think, the new licensees, and I'll stop here in a second, so I'll have questions, but before, you just had to be 21 and up. So any store could sell these HDCPs, but you just had to be 21 and up. You couldn't allow anybody under 21 to be in there. The new law allows retail package stores to have a license, and they don't have to be 21 and up. However, if they have any product that's not a drink, it has to be behind the counter. Bars and restaurants can sell these drinks, they can get a license, and then it also has, allows anyone who wants to choose to be 21 and up can also get a license. So those are the significant changes in it. We will be conducting, minor compliance checks on them. We will be inspecting them, ensuring that, they're getting the products tested, make sure that we have a testing regime that makes sure there's no pesticides in there, heavy metals, make sure that the levels of THC are legal. And so I'll just stop there if anybody has any questions.
I think it's very interesting that the smokable hemp requires the age verification of those who appear to be 50 years of age. Interesting.
Yes.
Any answer to that? I'm curious.
So that's the alcohol law. That is what the alcohol law is. If the law states you're supposed to ID somebody, however, if someone reasonably appears to be 50 or older, there's a defense to not ID them. And they adopted that. That's when you go to your gas stations or your liquor stores or any place like that. Currently in Tennessee, bars and restaurants are not required to ID, but they're the only ones. Everybody else has that standard. So that is the standard that, yeah.
Have we had any violations around
Well,
HDCs?
No, ma'am, not at this time, but Aaron and I have spoken, and we've already decided that we're gonna get together and form some sort of enforcement in I don't like the word sting, but we're gonna make sure everybody's up to standards.
Okay, I assume all of this has been communicated with the current licensees, how this is gonna change for next year.
Yes, we're sending out lots of information. A lot of them are members of associations, and they're getting that information out. It's been, on the federal level, they made some pretty big changes recently. So the whole industry is used to things changing like weekly, so they're pretty good about keeping up with it. We're going to make sure, though, especially in the first part of the year, that we're communicating. We're probably going to get sick of us, actually, but we're going to make sure that we communicate with them. We are also, last session, the General Assembly gave us responsibilities in checking to make sure that vapes are not sold to minors. And so they allocated some tax revenues so we could hire some new agents. And then we promised to do more vape compliance checks. And a lot of these places are selling vapes also. And so they're used to seeing us in there. And we're active with them, so. Yeah.
Besides these 8 that are listed, there are some freestanding businesses that strike me as having this product. Could totally be wrong. And I'm just a resident looking at some of the freestanding businesses in Red Bank that are not on this list. Will they have to be in compliance, or that's completely off the table?
Yes, ma'am, they will.
Yes, if you will need a license to sell this. if you don't have a license, you'd be subject to a Class A misdemeanor, selling without a license. Now, that list there is from the Department of Agriculture. I'm not claiming that there's not people out there selling it without a license, but they legally should have a license. And that's something that, both the ABC and the local police have concurrent jurisdiction over. So we share that responsibility.
Right.
Yeah.
And can be enforced
Yes.
on those businesses.
It can be enforced, yes.
Okay, thank you.
This doesn't apply to like synthetic, like Delta 8, Delta 9?
It does.
It
It does. In fact, the synthetics, this new law made synthetics illegal. So synthetic Delta 8, any kind of THC, synthetic THC will be illegal, at this point. So it does.
Effective January 1?
January 1 for those who don't have a license. If you have a license currently, you will be under the old, you can continue to sell, THCA, you can continue to sell, synthetics, so you'll be under the Title 43 law, is what we call it. Anybody who gets a license after January 1st will be under the Title 57, part, and then after, June 30th, everybody will be under our regulation at that point. Department of Ag, what they did was they gave everybody the same expiration date. It just prorated it. So if you came in later in the year, you would just expire with everybody else, but you pay a little less for your license.
Commissioner, did you? Oh, Chief, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just gonna add just a little bit of just brief information. So why are we here? What was the importance of this, and why are we presenting this to you? So, fundamentally, right, a few years back, the state started allowing hemp products and all that, right? Well, government wasn't established and able to support that, right? So they put it under Department of Agriculture. So they're having to develop controls and measures and all that. Well, they didn't have the staffing, resources, funding, for any of that. So over time, obviously, people get creative. And so what happened is, even though these products were to be safe and all, there are people out there, they're looking, well, how can I change these products? And so ultimately, people get these products and they go into a store and they buy it. And these kids are getting these products or vapes or whatnot, and they're changing it. And people are getting dying, from it, right? And so there's got to be controls in there. So part of the answer is changing. Well, Department of Agriculture might not be the best entity to do that. So then it was, transferred to the ABC with some other things. And so I think they've done a better job, with this. So it's dangerous. And, growing up, I was like, you can't overdose on marijuana or anything like that, right? Well, you can, now, right? So that's the dangers. And you take some of these vapes or these oils and things, you add heat to some of these products that are legal, but you change it and you add heat or whatnot, and it changes the product. And then you can either get high or even overdose on it. And so that's why we see this as a very important issue to make sure that we regulate, in our city. And so bringing in the ABC along with, talking to Sergeant Hope to look into this and finally kind of stay in touch with laws. That's why we're here. We want to keep in touch and make sure the businesses are here that are legal to operate and that, they're not selling to underage kids or inappropriate or illegal products for sure. So it's just regulation, make sure everybody's as safe as possible.
That's right. That's right. And the Department of Ag does a tremendous job of regulating the hemp growers. They just, all parties felt like it was best for long term, just to transition to us, because we have a long history of regulating intoxicating substances and dealing with businesses and, on the retail level. So it was just, our state leaders thought it was best for us to have it. And we worked together with them. But the chief is right. The THCA that I talked about earlier, it's not actually, that substance doesn't get you intoxicated until you put a flame on it. And then that turns it into Delta 9, which we all kind of know about as the intoxicating substance. And so there was actually a loophole, and this new law just fixed the loophole, is really what it did, and added some more safeguards to give us more tools in our tool belt help protect the communities. Like the chief was saying, kids are going to the emergency room, they're seeing the gummies on the table and eating too many of them, getting really sick and going to the emergency room. So that's something we want to stop. We're also going to do some education, along with the Department of Health too, to end mental health and substance abuse services to make sure the public knows about the dangers of it.
Any other questions? Concerns?
Yeah.
Have you seen an uptick in our city with issues that this will help corral and hopefully contain problems that people get themselves into?
As far as an uptick compared to Chattanooga, no, man, because we're surrounded by Chattanooga, so we're gonna see the same amount, just at a lower level. But one is a problem.
That's true.
So that's the way that we're looking at it.
And education, like you mentioned, that's key. I mean, I'm educated myself, much less what you're gonna present to schools and organizations and municipalities and cities to help us.
Well, one thing I like about this is not just any business can pop up and say we're gonna start, selling these these products, right? There's at least some regulation and oversight and some rules in place to be able to do that. So somebody open up still a lemonade stand, we're gonna open up a stand and sell these, right? So that's a little far out there, but that's kind of that idea.
That's a good point, Chief. This new law does not allow it to be sold on the streets. A lot of, you might see in some bigger cities, they'll just have little vendors popping up on the side of the street, on the sidewalk, and this does not allow that. It doesn't allow shipping, so, teenagers can't have it shipped to them. Doesn't allow vending machines, the new law doesn't. And all of these are just protections to make sure, our youth are not getting it. And so that's a great point, Chief. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for being here with us this morning. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Look forward to working with you.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna have fun.
We've done a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, we'll have to at least temporarily table the next item and move on to citizen comments on items on the work session agenda. Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the time for citizen comments. Please observe these rules. Comments are limited to 2 minutes during the work session or less. The city recorder will operate a timer. If time expires, please respect her direction and conclude any comments. Comments should be addressed to the board as a whole and not to a particular commissioner or to city staff or to the audience. The commission is here to listen, not to respond or engage in back and forth, so please do not expect a reply during citizen comment. Citizens are now invited to the podium. Please begin by stating your name and address.
We have no comments. If everyone's okay with it, we'll return back to item 6. Our commission retreat discussion, tentative date of February 24, 2026. Mr. Green?
Mayor, if I could I ask that we go to item 7? We have somebody in the audience who is hoping to depart as soon as possible, and that's Trust for Public Land Partners, if I could.
All right, is there any objection to moving on to item 7? Okay, item 7 on the consent agenda, accept a donation from Trust for Public Land, TPL, for $10,000 to be used towards Godsey Ridge Trail, resolution number 25-1864. Mr. Gravy.
Thank you. Good evening, Commission. And thank you to those that were able to come to our groundbreaking ceremony for Godsey Ridge this evening. Very exciting project with lots of partners that have helped us get to this point. And I just want to put out a reminder that this project is being funded in full by the Project Diabetes Grant, which is from the Tennessee Department of Health at no cost to the city of Red Bank. On top of that, we have wonderful partners like the Trust for Public Lands, and we have David Johnson here today, who I'll ask to come up in just a moment. But today, I bring you this resolution that allows the city of Red Bank to formally accept a $10,000 donation from TPL to support community activities, maintenance, public access, and/or construction-related activities to the Godsey Ridge Trail. These funds will help ensure the trail remains an inviting, equitable, and well-maintained outdoor space that serves residents of all ages and abilities. The funds may be used immediately or over time, and I've already spoken with our Director of Finance, Chris Pickle, about where they will be placed in the appropriate city account designated for the Godsey Ridge Trail. As part of accepting this donation, the city will include the required acknowledgement on public materials promoting activities funded by the support, recognizing the Trust for Public Lands and LL Bean, where the funding came from, along with the required state of Tennessee funding statements. The Trust for Public Land is a trusted and greatly appreciated partner, and we are grateful for their continued investment in Red Bank's parks, trails, and outdoor recreation system. I would like to now invite David Johnson up real quick from TPL, so he can speak on a little bit about this grant from LL Bean, and then open up questions to the commission.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Johnson.
I was not planning to come up here, and I certainly did not ask to be bumped ahead of you.
That was me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeffrey is one of our best partners, along with all the other Red Bank City staff. So we wanted to acknowledge this great partnership we have, say thank you for your ongoing support, and be able to bring resources to a great project in a great city to make it an even better place for everyone. So we're just glad to be able to bring these resources from our partner LL Bean to the city of Red Bank to do a project. And I'm wearing my LL Bean boots today specifically for that reason. We also may be able to provide some LL Bean materials, equipment, supplies that they sometimes grant to us, so I'll stay connected. But we appreciate this partnership. Do you guys have any questions?
I would like to add one more thing. The rest of the money that TPL got from this LL Bean grant is being put into a project that is being spearheaded by Daniela Peterson of TPL, where they're bringing on 10 neighbors to get them, and I don't remember the exact title of it, but Nature Guide certified, to be able to take other neighbors and folks who might not be comfortable going on a hike out onto a hike. They'll have different certifications from their wilderness first aid, to tree bathing and other things of that nature. So some fun things in tangent that our neighbors, including our program coordinator, Tegan Martin, will be able to lead for people like our active older adults, or just different neighbors that might not be quite ready to get out on their own. Any questions from the commission?
Lisa, thank you all
Of
for
course.
your
We
generous
appreciate
support
you.
and being such incredible partners
Yes,
with
ma'am.
us. Very grateful.
Thank you. And I appreciate being bumped up.
All right, returning to item number 6, commission retreat discussion. Mr. Graham.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. Just wanted to bring into public discussion the proposed date of February 24th for the 5th annual commission retreat, and just ensure that's acceptable to everybody.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you, Commission.
Perfect. All right. And just a note, that is open to the public. It's usually hosted at the fire station number 2. It is a day-long event. We do not live stream it. So if you are interested in attending, you can come and, sit in the room with us and listen as we have our discussion. And if you can't attend, we always publish a report afterward that MTAS publishes a report that we then adopt that contains everything that we did talk about at the retreat. Moving on to item 8 on the consent agenda, apply for the Arts Education Project Support Grant through the Tennessee Arts Commission for an amount of up to $25,000, resolution number 25-1865, Mr. Grady.
Thank you, Mayor Dalton. This one really resonates in our hearts with our active older adults program. For those who don't know, happens over at our community center at 3653 Tom Weathers Drive, and it has been growing at a rapid pace, with art classes being one of the most asked for classes with our seniors. And so with this resolution, it authorizes the submission of a grant application to the Tennessee Art Commission for the Arts Education Project Support Tier 3 grant in the amount of up to $25,000 to support the AOA year-round art program. So currently, the city offers art classes for our active older adults, but they're limited to no more than 1 class per week and sometimes less, just depending on what we can do budgetarily or with our great partners over at the Chattery, or Arts Build has given us grants in the past to be able to help make these happen. but we're really limited on being able to give consistent art classes to our seniors. We've also received feedback from our participants requesting more frequent offerings and a greater diversity of art forms. If awarded, this grant would allow the Parks and Recreation Division to bolster the program by expanding class frequency, introducing new artistic disciplines, and better meeting the needs and interests of our AOA participants. The project would run the entirety of FY27 and would fund the artists, art supplies, marketing and outreach, and our end of year art gala, which was very well attended this past, I guess that was 2 weeks ago now. Wow, time flies. 2 Thursdays ago. There is no local match requirement, making this a very efficient way to expand a program that directly reflects participant input. Commission, do you have any questions?
Do you know when you would expect to get a response?
The application deadline is January 21st, is the day before our next commission meeting. And then usually with those grants, it'll take about a month or so to hear from it. So we'll hear probably in early spring to be able to start planning for FY27. And again, this would bring year-round programming that we wouldn't worry about having to try to look at other grants or other small partnerships and be able to make sure that they're consistent. Our goal would be 2 art classes a week for the entirety of FY27, which would be pretty fantastic.
Absolutely. I would love to have greater access. All right, any other questions or comments? All right.
One other is I'd like to thank 2 of the commissioners up on the podium, both Terry Holmes, who came and did an art class with our AOA, and also Jimmy Fairbanks Harvey, who came and did a yoga class with our AOA. 2 yoga classes. So a huge thank you to both of you for volunteering your time on that.
Thank you both so much.
Mayor, while I have Park Manager Jeffrey Gravy, I would like to ask Commissioner Jamie Fairbanks Harvey to come down and join Jeffrey and I just for a second.
It's an exciting moment, not a gotcha.
Yes, it's a very exciting moment. Yes, Commissioner. So before Commissioner was Commissioner, she was Superstar Volunteer, Jamie Fairbanks Harvey. And this, I'm presenting to you this evening a certificate of appreciation presented to Jamie Fairbanks Harvey on behalf of the City of Red Bank. Please accept our thanks and gratitude for your professional contributions, commitment to excellence, and dedicated service to the Red Bank Festival Citizen Advisory Board. Your participation and your support for the future of the city and its citizens is greatly appreciated. Presented this day of 19 September, we were just a little bit late. This is priceless with these signatures. It's got Mayor Stephanie Dalton, Chairperson Brianna Burns, Department Director Greg Tate, City Manager Martin Granner, and Park and Rec Director Jeff.
Thank you, boss.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. Thank you for continuing to serve in one capacity, and thank you for serving in both capacities for some
Very
time.
much appreciate it. I was taught well by my dad. Yeah, credit.
All right, and then our final item of business is item 10, any other business to discuss? Okay, if not, we'll go ahead and adjourn and return in 1 minute for our regular meeting. Let's take a time break.